Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports.
All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome in to Tider Insider TV. As you heard, brought to you by our good friends at Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. I'm WVOA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris, Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. And Rodney, I talk about different shows that we do, and I don't guess we kept count, but this is 20 plus years, right? Right around 51 shows a year. So
24 season.
Yeah,
24,
so over 1,000 shows. Yeah. They're all fun, but we have certain shows that are more memorable because of the time of the year. Whether we're getting ready for a college football playoff, or whether we're NCAA basketball tournament, or whatever it might be. But this is one of those shows because Bama football is back. This is the week when the Tide hits the practice field for fall camp. The Knicks Kids Luncheon is tomorrow morning. That's Nick Saban's favorite day of the year. And then Thursday, it's fall camp. We'll have more on that coming up as far as the dates and so forth and the fan day. But Rodney, for the first time in a while, we've been discussing this now for several weeks, headed into 2023, maybe this isn't fair to say, but I'll ask you, are there more questions than answers surrounding this version of the Alabama Crimson Tide?
I really think there is, Gary. I've thought about this a lot. I mean, obviously, there have been some other seasons where we've had some discussions about maybe where the team is in certain positions, but I think this one is right up there with maybe even 2014 was kind of similar when you had obviously your first year without A.J. McCarron as the quarterback. You had to find who was going to be that guy. Was it going to be Blake Sims? Was it going to be the transfer Jake Coker? We're in kind of a similar situation right now, replacing Bryce Young. So, yeah, I see a lot of similarities between that preseason and now what we're going into this week.
All right, now more on the schedule. Knicks Kids Luncheon tomorrow, practice 1 on Thursday, practice 2 on Friday, and then a fan day practice. We haven't had that in several years now due to COVID, but Saturday will be an open practice inside Bryant-Denny Stadium for the fans, and then afterwards there'll be an autograph session for fans that are members of the Yay Alabama Collective. So big weekend, and then Sunday's Media Day. That's big for us because we get to hear from Tommy Reese and Kevin Steele, the two coordinators. And that'll be the only time we hear from them until the postseason. So it's a big week to get camp started. You mentioned some of the questions that have to be answered. The bottom line is, though, Rodney, they'll work hard in fall camp to find a quarterback, to find some receivers that they feel like they can count on, to make the offensive line a little bit tighter, to find some pass rushers on defense, some cover guys in the secondary. But that's the thing about a football team. You never really know if you found the answers until you play a game. And even after Middle Tennessee, we may not know all the answers going into week 2 against Texas.
Yeah, I think when you look at this team, obviously there's a lot of questions, and it's going to take some time to develop over the course of the season. I think when you're breaking in a new quarterback that doesn't have experience, how is he going to get, how quickly can he get on the same page with these receivers and that passing game kind of develop? All of those things kind of come over the course of the season develop.
Yeah, no doubt, Rodney, and I think we got spoiled here. They went through a run. We talked about the quarterbacks. What a run of wide receivers that this university had. Now there's some talent, there's no doubt, but there doesn't seem to be the level of receiver play that we enjoyed for about 8 or 10 years in a row around here. And those receivers, Rodney, will need to step up to help a inexperienced quarterback, regardless of who it is.
Yeah, I think so. But I think really the thing that, when I look at it, it's the running game that can help this quarterback. The offensive line, I think they're going to be much better. They're going to be improved. You got several running backs, a stable of real high-quality running backs. But you mentioned the receivers, Gary, and you're right. I think they have a lot of guys, 7, 8, maybe even 9 guys that are capable of contributing. How many will be in the rotation remains to be seen. But I think they've got some guys that are really capable and some guys that got a lot of good experience last year. Now, the question is, will they take that next step?
And at Notre Dame, Tommy Reese really liked to use the tight ends. And, with the running game, with a quarterback that's not going to be as prolific as Bryce Young or Mac Jones or Tua Tagovailoa, you would think the tight ends will be much more involved in this offensive scheme. And there's a big group of guys to choose from. Who do you expect to step up and be a factor at tight end?
Well, I hear a lot of really good things about the Maryland transfer, C.J. Dupree. I think he's got a chance to be really good, a strong contributor. I think Danny Lewis, Miles Kitselman, I thought looked good in the A-Day game. I think a guy to really watch out, though, for Gary, kind of that H-back type player is Amari Nyblack, the rising sophomore. He's a guy that's put on a lot of weight in terms of gotten bigger, stronger. I think now he can combine those things with his ability as a receiver. I think he's got a chance to really be kind of a dynamic player. You remember how Jaleel Billingsley made an impact in 2020? I think Amari Niblack can be that kind of guy.
All right, Rod, let's move on because it's time for Coach Talk. And with the first day of fall camp just a couple of days away, the burning question, the so-called, I guess instead of elephant in the room, it's elephant on the field, has been the uncertainty around the quarterback position. But Coach Saban emphasized two things at SEC Media Days. When looking at the potential QB1, consistency is something you have to have at the position, and you need to be able to impact your teammates as a leader.
Whether you hand it off, whether you choose the play that we run, whether you hand it off, whether you throw an advantage throw, making decisions in the passing game to throw it to the right guys at the right time in the right place and accurately. So who can do that with the most consistency and be a leader on our team who has an impact on the other players is also important, because quarterback may be one of the most difficult positions to play if the people around you don't play well.
And we don't expect to have an announcement on a starting quarterback, to be honest with you, until at the earliest probably the week of Game 1 against Middle Tennessee, if then. But we do know this. We feel like it's a 3-quarterback race between that guy, Jalen Milroe, that guy, Ty Simpson, returnees from last year, and the transfer Tyler Buckner from Notre Dame. Now, we have 2 talented freshmen in Dylan Lonergan and Eli Holstein that are sitting there learning as well, but you've got to believe that the starting quarterback is going to come from that group of 3 guys that have some experience. And Ty Simpson hasn't played, but he's been here.
Yeah, I certainly would think so, Gary. I mean, obviously, those are the 2 guys, talking about Milroe and Ty Simpson, who exited spring, the top 2 at the position. Then you bring in Tyler Buckner, just 3 days after the 8A game. He's on campus, and he transfers here from Notre Dame. So I think, obviously, it's those 3. And I know everyone wants a prediction. Mm-hmm. And I know you get asked that on your radio show. I get it asked all the time on TiderInsider.com. How can you make a prediction? I don't think you can predict how these guys are going to respond overall when camp starts. Now, the 2 scrimmages that they have, those certainly will go a long way in determining that. And then it may even go into the early part of the season.
I know on Tider Insider I see a lot of predictions. Some guy will say he's heard that it's going to be Ty Simpson. Somebody else will say, no, the fact that Milroe's got the experience. I will say this. Somebody told me the other day, flat out, I'm not going to say who, but this guy's going to be the starting quarterback. And it was one of the 2 returnees. And he said, I know this. This is where it's going to go. And I said, how do you know that? He said, well, I've got some inside information. I said, well, let me ask you this. If either one of those guys, the way you say, had established themselves coming out of spring, do you really think they would have brought Tyler Buckner in? I don't think so. I think it's still wide open, Rodney. I think if the quarterback battle, if the coaches knew the quarterback was going to be coming out of spring, they wouldn't have brought in Tyler Buckner from Notre Dame. Just my take.
I know. I agree with you, and I think it's certainly going to still be competitive among those 3 for sure. Nothing's guaranteed. I think some people wonder, did Tyler Buckner get promised he would be the starter to transfer here, and that's certainly not the case. But I think the one thing that I do like about him, Gary, is I think he's got a lot of maturity. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to bring that to the quarterback room, and I think it's going to be a real interesting battle and to see how it all kind of develops.
We wanted to focus on the offense because of the quarterback situation, but just a quick word on the defense. There's some guys in positions there that they're going to need to step it up too.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at the defensive line, I think they've got some really good players there, maybe not as deep as you would hope that they would be, but they've got some young players that they can develop. I think you look at the inside backer spots. Obviously, I think Deontay Lawson has a chance to be really, really good, but he doesn't have a lot of certainly not starting experience. You're going to have someone new lined up next to him. You have some really good outside pass rushers. I like Terry and Arnold and Kool-Aid McKinstry at the corners. You're going to probably start a true freshman at safety, and Caleb Downs, certainly a possibility. A lot of competition back there. It's going to be really interesting because I think Kevin Steele is going to kind of bring back that energy and that passion on the defensive side.
Well, Rodney, every year numerous Alabama football players are up for national awards with probably Alabama really needed more national awards in the last 15 years than any other program. The watch lists are coming out for this year. The Maxwell watch list, which goes to the nation's outstanding player, Jace McClellan, the running back, the senior out of Aledo, Texas. This could be his year to shine. You see him against his home state Longhorns there last year. The Bronco Nagurski Award for the best defensive player in college football. Watch list, Dallas Turner, Kool-Aid McKinstry, and Malachi Moore are all on that list. Allen Trophy list for best interior lineman in college football. J.C. Latham, Tyler Booker, and Jaheim Otis all made that list. And the nation's top long snapper, Manley Award watch list, Nealon Hibbett on that list. So Alabama well represented again. Well, still to come on Tider Insider Television. Alabama has been on a recent recruiting roll, but the Tide got dealt a couple of setbacks last week and over the weekend, including one player flipping to an in-state rival. You already know who that is, but we'll tell you about it. Plus, we'll have Alabama, more information in regards to recruiting and what's happening with that. And Perry Thompson, as we said, that's just go ahead and give it away. We're going to break that down, why he flipped from Alabama to Auburn, and we'll do that next. And later on, we'll be getting to your phone calls, your emails, and your tweets. The phone number, as always, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. There's the email address. Go ahead and give us a call. I think we had some issues with the phone lines last week. Some people told me they couldn't get through. I think we've got it straightened out. So if you call, we'll get you on next on TITV. And welcome back to TITV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Alongside Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. College football recruiting is always on the minds of people in this state, and it is often give and take. There is no program, including Alabama, that's ever going to land 100% of its targets, and that, of course, is continuing in 2024. But it's been a tough pill to swallow for Alabama fans lately. For the second time in a matter of a few days, Auburn scored a massive recruiting win, at least for now, over its two major rivals, Alabama and Georgia. Let's start with what happened on Saturday, Rodney. Class of 2024 five-star wide receiver Perry Thompson from Foley High School. Yes, that's Julio Jones' alma mater. He's been compared to him in terms of his size and athleticism. Committed to Alabama last year, but flipped this past Saturday to in-state rival Auburn. The Hugh Freeze effect is happening down on the plains, and that's a big one. Before we get to Demarcus Riddick, I mean, you could kind of see this one coming. The Auburn recruiting folks had been predicting it for a while, and I was, Rodney, I think a little curious about a comment that Perry Thompson had yesterday at a media day down there in Baldwin County in the Mobile area, and he said that he wanted to go to Auburn because Hugh Freeze develops wide receivers. And he did have a couple of good ones at Ole Miss, but nobody has developed more wide receivers in the last 10 years than the University of Alabama. So, hey, if you want to go to Auburn, go, but, you know, that's not a factual statement right there.
Yeah, that one kind of caught me by surprise as well, Gary. You look at it, you look at Waddle, you look at Judy, you look at Ruggs, you look at Jamison Williams, but you have Smitty wins the Heisman Trophy, the only receiver to win one in 30 years. You know, like you said, if you want to go to Auburn, that's certainly understandable. But Hugh Freeze is not a better developer of wide receivers in terms of the track record than Nick Saban.
And that was at Ole Miss. You know, Auburn, let's just be honest, they're not turning out receivers hardly at all. In fact, they haven't been turning out many big-time NFL players.
The bottom line is, who's going to throw you the ball?
Yeah.
You've got to have a quarterback.
Yeah. We'll see what happens there. It is a long time until December, but for now, Perry Thompson committed to Auburn. And last week, Demarcus Riddick, the five-star linebacker from Chilton County High School down in Clanton, had been a Georgia commit, but we knew that once he said he was going to have another commitment ceremony, it was either going to be Alabama or Auburn. You picked him in your Firecracker 5 on July 4th to go to Alabama. At that time, that's where I think he was headed. But again, you got to give Hugh Freeze credit. I think they worked him. They were able to play an angle of, hey, you know, we're about fun. We're a little more laid back. You know, Alabama's intense. It's more businesslike. And they got his commitment.
You know, I think, too, Gary, they're selling early playing time. And it's when you tell someone maybe or give them the notion that maybe they could start as a true freshman, I think that's certainly that was something intriguing to Demarcus Riddick. And, you know, again, it's all about what you're looking for. And, you know, for whatever reason, he felt more comfortable at Auburn. But you're right. I did think for a long time, when he flipped, he was flipping to Alabama, and it just turned the other way.
All right, you move on in recruiting. Like we said, nobody gets them all. Alabama and Nick Saban have gotten more of them than anybody else over the last 15 years. But four-star wide receiver Marty Jefferson of Baylor High School in Chattanooga will make his commitment announcement on Saturday. The finalist, Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee. So, again, you're up against your SEC rivals. 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, number 16 athlete in the country, number 3 player in Tennessee, according to the 247 Sports composite rankings. He was in Tuscaloosa this past weekend for the Champions Cookout. Now, with Thompson committing to Auburn, I would think that this young man is a priority recruit for Alabama football.
You know, as I'm watching him right here, Gary, and I've watched him a few times, after the catch, he's obviously really dangerous. You saw him put a move on there. Kind of reminded me a little bit on that field level shot we saw of Jermaine Burton. You know, the way he can juke guys, the way he looked in high school. But, yeah, Marty Jefferson, a really talented athlete. Obviously, he's a guy that could be Major League Baseball
He's a
pick.
Tennessee baseball commit at the moment.
Yeah, he's a guy that's got, all kinds of skill and talent and all of those things. He's really dangerous after catch. I like him. And some people say, well, will it be Alabama? Will it be Tennessee? If I had to hedge a guess right now, I would say Alabama.
Real quickly, the fact, though, that he's a Tennessee baseball commit, does that give them a little bit of an advantage?
Well, I don't really think so. I think that, he met with the coaches here in baseball, so I think he likes everything about Alabama.
All right, well, we'll find out on Saturday. Still to come on TITV, there is no quarterback debate with the Carolina Panthers of the NFL. Bryce Young's taking care of that in a hurry. And up next, as I said, your phone calls, emails, tweets, phone number 205-348-9882. Go ahead and give us a call. We love interacting with our viewers on TITV, and we'll do that next right here on WVUA 23. The Carolina Panthers opened training camp last Wednesday, and head coach Frank Reich wasted no time formally announcing top overall NFL draft pick Bryce Young as the team's starting quarterback. And the rookie out of Alabama, Rodney, I think this is so cool. He's just turned 22 years old. But you could let this thing go on through camp. But if he's going to be your guy, why not go ahead, let him know he's the guy so he can start working on getting ready to play in the season opener against the NFC South rival Atlanta Falcons? Yeah,
and by all accounts, Gary, he's done really, really well in camp. I mean, he's a guy that, everything they've had, all the events that they've had, the practices, the workouts, has been very impressive. And, he's a guy that mentally, he can make that adjustment real quickly.
Yeah, they moved up to get him number 1 overall. They didn't draft him to sit him on the bench. I like it. Get him out there and let him play. Going to be fun to watch. Bryce, Tua, Mac, and Jalen all not just be starting quarterbacks in the NFL, but be top-tier starting quarterbacks in the NFL. It's quite a testament to the program here, that's for sure. All right, Rodney, let's jump out on the phone lines, and our pal Sammy up in Walker County is going to lead us off tonight. Hey, Sammy.
Hello, Gary, Rodney. Thanks, guys. Great job. I just want to shout out and get y'all to comment on what is important as any coaching job that they'll do down to the strength and the conditioning programs and the off-season program and the nutrition program down there. You got to have second to none, and it's paying off, and I want y'all to comment on that. It's so important.
Yeah, it is, and the strength staff probably spends more time with the players than the regular coaching staff. Your nutrition, your mental health coaches. Listen, I've said this before, not just in recruiting, but in terms of support staff. Alabama under Nick Saban has led the way. And you're absolutely right, Sammy. There's no program in the country that puts more emphasis and more resources into player development on and off the field, academically, as I said, mental health, sleeping, everything. You're not going to find better than Alabama. In fact, Alabama is the blueprint. They're the template for just about every other program in the country.
I think when you look, Sammy, at some of the guys, the job that David Ballou is doing, you look at some of the big guys right now, Miles McVay, true freshman offensive lineman. I think he came in, he's lost 50 pounds. I think you look at Jaheim Otis last year, he lost over 100 pounds. You look at the job that Seth McLaughlin, you look at the pictures of him, how he's really bulked up. I think he looks really good. So anyone that questions the job that David Ballou's doing, look, I'm here to tell you, he's doing a really good job.
Top notch. All right, let's get to the email question of the day, and it's brought to you by KDM Service Corporation. When it comes to heating and air conditioning, KDM Service Corporation serves your family like our family. All right, here's the question. Will our 2 freshman quarterbacks be content redshirting, or will they look to enter the transfer portal soon? That's Dennis in Tuscaloosa. He's talking, of course, about Dylan Lonergan and Eli Holstein. It's a fair question, Dennis, in this day and age. I don't have any problem with the question. I would like to think, as true freshmen, they're going to be willing to hang in here for a while. I think they're both talented. I don't see either one playing this year. If they do have to play, it may not be a good sign for Alabama.
Yeah, look, I think both of them came into a situation where they realized there were going to be a few guys ahead of them in the pecking order. It may take some time. When you're a true freshman, really, again, Bryce Young, Tua, guys like that, I mean, that's not the norm. I know it's more the norm now, Gary, but to come into a program like Alabama, generally speaking, you're going to be hard-pressed to play much as a true freshman quarterback.
But they're 2 good-looking freshmen, that's for sure. All right, we're going to take a timeout. We'll come back with more phone calls and emails right here on TITV. Former Crimson Tide men's golfer Lee Hodges went on the PGA Tour for the first time this past Sunday as he went wire to wire at the 3M Open in Minnesota. Jay Sewell, his college head coach, was there to see it as he was phenomenal. 24 under par. That's a tournament record. He had a 7-stroke win. On the same day that Hodges celebrated that win, former Alabama golfer Davis Shore clinched his first professional victory on the PGA Tour Canada Event Series, winning at the Osprey Valley Open. So Bama Golf, man, they have turned them out. And more news on a current Bama golfer coming up a little bit later on in the show. All right, phone lines are open, 205-348-9882. If you want to give us a ring, you can get through now. In the meantime, we'll take an email, Rod, and the email is, why has there been such a drop-off at the receiver position? That's from Byron in Demopolis. Kind of talked about that a little bit earlier. It's just, you know, they just went through such an unbelievable run of talent. All the first-round draft picks, Heisman Trophy winner, going back to Julio Jones. You look at Julio. You look at Amari Cooper. I mean, you look at Calvin Ridley. You look at Judy. You look at Ruggs. You look at Waddle. You look at Devontae Smith. You look at Jameson Williams. You look at John Mechie. You know, at some point, it just can't continue to that level.
Yeah. Again, they don't grow on trees either. It's really competitive. I mean, there's a lot of other schools out there going after the top guys. I mean, Ohio State's now on a run with top receivers. You got Georgia recruiting more receivers. You got Tennessee now. You've got Jimbo Fisher over there at Texas A&M. I mean, it's a lot more competitive than it is right now. But again, I think this is a really good group of talented guys that they have potentially. I'm really excited to see how they develop over this season.
All right, Rod, time is getting short. Thanks for the phone calls and emails. We'll be back to wrap up this edition of TITV right after this. It was announced on Monday that current Crimson Tide golfer Nick Dunlap has been named to the 2023 United States Walker Cup team. This is a 2-day match play event comprised of the top 20 amateur golfers in the world between 10-man teams from the United States and Great Britain and Ireland. They're going to be playing at the famed Old Course at St. Andrews September 2nd and 3rd over in Scotland. That is a great, great honor for and caps off a great weekend for Alabama men's golf. All right, thanks for tuning in to Tider Insider TV, presented by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. A reminder, we got a replay tonight at 10:30 here on WVOA 23. You can catch it anytime at WVOA23.com. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Good night, everybody.